Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
MHS College Career Day.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting us tonight. So as you know, we had our second annual College and Career Day, and everything went even better than last year. We have a few students that are here tonight that are going to present with you some of the things that they participated in on this special day. And thank you again for giving us the opportunity to host this day last week at MHS. So as I call the students, you can come right up to the podium with me, okay? We have Stacy Sanchez. We have Amy Shanahan. And we have Amanda Spooner. So again, they're going to share some of the things that they participated in last week during our second annual MHS College and Career Day.
Hello, today my name is Stacy Sanchez and I visited QCC 2 weeks ago, I think. And I really like this day because I work, so it was really hard for me to schedule a day where I could visit the college and I could schedule an appointment with them. I first got assigned Mass Bay and I was really glad that they were able to let me go to QCC because QCC has a program I was looking for. And I had a question for them, and that same day I was able to turn in my application because they answered that question for me. I also had a teacher with me, and I've known that teacher since first grade. So I was really comfortable asking questions. And there's not a lot of people in my family that can help me. So it was really helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
So I went to Quest Diagnostics, which is a lab in Marlborough. I found this experience to be very valuable and eye-opening because as a junior, I spent a lot of time online researching careers and thinking about which one would be best for me. But researching online isn't the same as physically going on site and seeing and talking to people who are actually doing a job that had sparked my interest. This tour gave me a clear understanding of all the different careers and growth available at a company like Quest. And just like field hockey practice, researching a career online is not the same as the real game experience I will be getting tomorrow night at our playoff game.
I also went to the Quest Diagnostics trip with Amy, and I'm not really interested in the science field. I'm not sure where I want to go for colleges, not really sure what I want to do in life, but one thing is for sure, I like knowing how the world works. So it was cool to know how where diagnosis kind of comes from, and knowing the rationale behind someone coming up to you and saying you have whatever disease. So it was nice to see the evidence behind decisions like that being made.
So in closing, again, I want to thank you all for your support of these wonderful opportunities for our students. We are the only high school that I know about that puts this type of stock into college and career and makes sure that it is a deliberate part of one of our school days for all students at MHS. So thank you again for your support, and we're very appreciative to all our partners in the community, like Quest Diagnostics that was mentioned, as well as the many other businesses who invited our students on that day, and the colleges. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, Mr. Riley.
And I see Misty Horatius trying to escape. Just kidding.
Did she successfully escape?
Holding the wall up.
Just teasing. I'm just teasing. I'm just wondering if you can maybe explain to some of our members who may not know, as well as the audience, and as well people at home, what are some of the other opportunities students had to do that day, how this all came about, how does it fit in the bigger picture with the stuff that Liz, you guys are doing?
Absolutely. So
Be helpful.
this started several years ago at MHS as a sort of PSAT, SAT testing day. And we ran it similar to like what we run with an MCAS format. Last year, with your support, we decided to do something a little different and also build in some college opportunities for students, mainly seniors, in order to go out and see campuses on that day. We organized the field trips, organized the transportation, and we sent out like 7 busloads of students last year. This year, in addition to those 2 aspects, we also built in career visits off campus from the school and career and college rotations within the school, trying to give every student an intentional purpose throughout the day with a focus on college and career.
Great. And can you maybe tell us a couple of the other companies that participated?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so actually one of our newest partners, the Branches, they had taken a group of students to the facility in order to show them what was going to be opening up in November. And we also had Boston Scientific on the list. So some of our typical members, but then with the colleges we had Quincy, Mass Bay, Worcester State, Framingham State, so a number of different college partners as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
MCAS Accountability Report.
Good evening. Tonight I want to focus on providing you with an update on the 2019 MCAS results and our accountability status. At the end of this very brief presentation, if you would like me to follow up with anything for future conversations, please let me know. As I begin, please note that the Department of Education may revise the system, accountability system in the future once again. That's my annual reminder. Let me begin by highlighting the fact that as a district, we do not require assistance or intervention. All of our schools have made progress towards their targets. It is the first time since 2011 that we do not have any school in an accountability status that requires Department of Education assistance. We've already done that as administrators. This slide is an overview of the grade 3 through 10 MCAS results. This is the first year that grade 10 has been included, and I will speak about that process in a moment because, as we are aware, grade 10 is changing, and this is the first year that that's happened. I'm just going to briefly, just a few slight highlights from the grade 3 through 8. Is that the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations in ELA increased in grades 3, 4, 5, and 7. And at the same time, the percentage of students not meeting expectations was reduced in ELA in grades 3, 4, and 7. So we see the results of our changes to our literacy instruction and our interventions in the middle school. We don't have the data for the high school yet because we need more than 1 year. This is a graph that the superintendent created. And as we plan for next fall, we have been focusing on student achievement across grade levels. We want to look at the whole 3rd grade, the whole 4th grade, the whole 5th grade. This chart shows the increased student achievement for all students over the last 3 years in the elementary schools. So for example, in ELA overall, our beginning point 3 years ago was 495, and this year it was 500.3. So that's an increase over those 3 years, as well as in math. Not as large of an increase, but still an increase from 495 to 497.6. Department of Education has told us anytime we're making increases, we are addressing our achievement gap. We're reducing our achievement gap.
And one reason we wanted to show this is because we actually have the data for 3 years for this level to show. As we continue on with the new high school test, we will have data to be able to look at the 3-year look back to see how we're doing. I'm pleased to see that we have made the growth, and at ELA we're now above the state average, which is fantastic. So when we look at this, we're seeing steady incremental growth each year from 2017 through 2019.
Just to overview a little bit the transition to the next generation grade 10 ELA and math test. This past spring was the first administration of the next generation test, and that took place in the spring of 2019. It was the first test based on the Massachusetts 2017 revised curriculum frameworks. It was the first time that the high school took computer-based assessments. It was aligned to NAEP and evidence-based definitions of college and career readiness, and it was consistent with the results established in 2017 for grades 3 through 8. So the hope is in the future we can compare and actually see growth by the same measurement of a student from grades 3 through 10. The legacy graduation and scholarship standards remained the same while students become familiar with the new tests. So the DSE used statistical techniques validated by experts, educators, can you tell where I get that language from, to ensure that the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to pass and graduate with the competency determination remained similar for at least the next 2 classes. So they're saying that it may not be the same moving forward, but for at least the next 2 years, they'll be looking at the results to make sure they're not raising the bar on the students too high, too fast. And so our next steps. This data and information is not new to our building leaders. They've been looking at it since last June. Last month, the principals came to school committee meetings to update you on the specific actions that they had embedded in their school improvement plans. These actions included interventions, teaming models, and school-based focuses on attendance issues. The Marlborough Public Schools strategy for improvement will focus all of our district priorities in the next few years using this data as a baseline as we move forward. So thank you. Any questions?
Questions from the committee? Ms. Hennessy.
Thank you. I guess part of what's kind of popping in my head, and I'm sure we're going to have more discussions as we go over the next 8 months, in preparation of the new school opening and 5th grade, obviously moving to an elementary setting. I'm assuming, but I'd rather, I guess, ask the question that we're going to then be pushing this information into those buildings with those principals, the new principal that's in place, so that everybody can get a peek of where things are making those jumps and what needs to be continued to be reinforced.
So all the building leaders have all of the same information because we need it as we move forward.
Right.
So we all need to be on the baseline. One of the things that I don't know that we've talked enough about too is that when we did the reorg the last time, we had a lot of conversations about the 4th grade. We need to be really clear that this reorganization will benefit. Hopefully, one of the goals needs to be to benefit student achievement in 5th grade as well. But also keep our eye on the 6th grade. So how are we going to do that? And the only way to do that is for all of the leaders to have the same information and to be looking and having those conversations. Mr. Riley's been involved in these conversations as well.
That's great. I mean, that's really what I was asking about, only because when we were having the discussions about that transition anyway, we were talking about the fast bridge material and that assessment material passing along. Right. Just looking for that same information, so that's great.
And as the high school has just completed their first universal screening of students as well. So yes, we'll give you more of that information in upcoming meetings.
Little preview.
Yes,
Thanks,
a little
Hannah.
bit. It's exciting though.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I'd like to start my report by recognizing outstanding students at the high school level. First, I'd like to start with the National School Development Council Awards. Zaria Alves is a student who transferred to the Hildreth School midway through her junior year to receive more support in a smaller school environment. During her time at Hildreth, Zaria has made great strides in improving her GPA while utilizing the emotional supports necessary to manage her mental health. Zaria is a role model to other students who are struggling. She has open and honest conversations about erasing the stigma of mental health in the image of the Hildreth School. Zaria is an active member of 4 Hildreth School clubs. She is a founder and co-president of the Student Council, member of the LGBTQ and Friends Club, the Interact Club, and Yearbook. Zaria has been instrumental in increasing student involvement at Hildreth. Outside of school, Zaria has been involved in the Tempo and Glass drop-in LGBTQ centers. We are very happy and proud to give her an award. Congratulations. There you go. Mr. I'd like to invite her to speak to the school committee.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say thank you guys so much. I've had the honor to be at both Marlborough High School and the Hildreth building with our new, program director. We've been able to make great progress in our school, I think. I just want to be a part of that, be a part of bringing, kids to be happy at school, kids to be involved at school, feel safe at school, and Mr. Padilla has helped me feel safe, so thank you.
Alicia Beebe is an outstanding young woman in our senior class who is diligent, hardworking, and organized. Throughout high school, she has consistently pursued excellence and currently ranks 17th in a class of 260. She has always selected challenging courses and will have completed 7 AP courses by the time she graduates from high school. Alicia has served as the vice president of her class for 4 years. She has served on student council throughout high school and this year was elected secretary. She has attended many state and regional conferences with student council and has developed excellent leadership and organizational skills. Some of the events she has worked on include fundraisers, Spirit Week activities, Powder Puff football, and class events. Alicia is a talented athlete, making the varsity soccer team in her freshman year and currently serves as the captain for the varsity soccer team. She participates in indoor track during the off-season of soccer and has made it to the state divisional meet for 3 years in a row as part of the relay team. She was a member of mixed chorus freshman and sophomore years and was selected for our elite singing group, the a cappella choir, in her junior and senior years. Alicia is a positive role model for students at MHS and demonstrates academic excellence and the importance of school and community involvement. So congratulations, Alicia. We'd like to present you. Oh, you're right there. Yeah.
I am very thankful for this award and everything Marlborough Public Schools has done for me over the years and all the opportunities that I have had. It's been a great time throughout my career at Marlborough and especially my senior year. And I'm just really happy to be involved so much with the school. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next award is an AP Scholar of Distinction. This is a big award. This is a very important award, and we don't see this very often. So I'd like to say the last time we had this, Mr. Riley, was quite a few years ago. I think we had some AP Scholars of Distinction. Do you remember how many years it's been? It's been 2016, right?
Well, I can't say that it's 2016, but I know that it's very rare because you have to take at least 4 AP classes. And think about that, that's going from your junior to your senior year, and you have to have a cumulative score of over a 4 on all 4 exams when they average the scores together. So that's pretty impressive.
That's incredible. Hannah Schooler has maintained a cumulative 4.817 GPA throughout high school. To date, Hannah has taken 13 honors level courses, 5 AP courses, and is currently enrolled in 5 AP courses during her senior year of high school. I have no idea how you're doing this. Outside of school, Hannah has been a member of the Hazimir International Jewish Teen Choir for the past 5 years. Hazimir focuses on integration of American and Israeli teens while teaching and performing high-level Jewish choral music. This year, Hannah holds a leadership position as teen leader in her local chapter. Additionally, Hannah has been an active member of the Marlborough High School Drama Club since her freshman year of high school. Hannah's roles have ranged from crew member, student producer, actress, and this year she is planning to be a director of production. Hannah is a passionate and determined young woman. Her post-secondary plans include majoring in legal studies with the ultimate goal to become an attorney and potentially a judge. Congratulations, Hannah, on being commended student for the 2020 National Merit Scholarship Program.
Thank you all. I'd also like to thank everyone at MHS. Being a student there has been such a positive force in my life, emotionally, mentally, academically, and socially. And I'd also like to thank my parents, my mom and my dad, who are sitting right there, for also being a huge support system. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And just for all the parents and family members, we do post our meetings on our website. It's a link you can click, so that way you can take that link and you can send it to all the people that you want to see see the meeting. And it's posted on either YouTube or Vimeo, one of those two. So just so you know, it'll be up in a couple days. Thank you. I'd like to also say thank you to all the community members who participated in the elementary school community reader program. Many of our city councilors, department heads, family members, public safety personnel, school committee members, mayors, came out and took the time to read.
How many are there?
The mayor. They took the time to read, and I appreciate it. It was also one of my favorite days of the year, and I'd like to thank Ms. Benedetto, Ms. Hannafin, and Ms. Pacific for their hospitality in having me read to their students. The only personal note I'll put in is that every year I get just the best question ever. And last year's was, did you get your flu shot? This year's was, what does your dog do when you're here reading to us? So there's when you go to kindergarten, there's always a great question. But it's a great event. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
That's it?
Well, that's it for now.
Okay. Mr. Diaz.
How about a comment?
Okay, comment.
Okay, comment is, I just want to say before the parents and the kids all walk out, congratulations, because we're clapping for you, but impressive stuff, and it's great to actually see you all here and hear what you're doing. You can go now, but I just wanted you to hear that.
Oh, are you kidding me? No one's supposed to leave till Mrs. Hennessy says you can go now.
Back to Mr. Diaz then.
Thank you.
We got to ask if it's okay.
I'm sorry, would you like to ask the question?
No. Can Mr. Diaz speak?
Yes, certainly.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a quick update from Finance and Operations tonight. Wanted to give you an update on our food service balance. We're currently at a negative $2,872, which compares to a balance of negative $3,642 during the same period last year. While the number is lower in a year-over-year comparison, balances are up pretty significantly since I last gave you this number. At least in part, the reason why is as of October 1st, eligibility statuses from last year are no longer valid. So if you're a free or reduced student in FY19, and if you haven't applied yet for FY20, you revert back to full paid on October 1st. So that has driven up our balance. I do encourage our parents who haven't yet applied to please do so as soon as possible. Applications are available at each school, as well as at the website, as well as my office. Okay. There are some good news from food services. Breakfast and lunch participation is up across the board. Based on preliminary September data, we're seeing a pretty nice increase for FY20 thus far, except for a slight decrease at Whitcomb breakfast participation. Everywhere else, we've seen a jump. I wanted to point out that at Marlborough High, we've seen a very impressive jump in both lunch and breakfast participation, pretty significant. Lunch participation is up to 51.5% versus 46.5% last year, and breakfast is up to 22.3 versus 16.2. So to put that in perspective, that's 50 additional students eating lunch every day and 60 additional students getting breakfast every day at Marlborough High, which we're very happy about. FY21 budget. Yes, it is that time. Superintendent Bergeron and I have started working on developing the FY21 budget. Our goal for this budget cycle is to be able to present the school committee with not one but two versions of the budget request. The first will reflect what the FY21 budget would have looked like under normal circumstances. And the second will reflect all of the additional funding required due to the transition into the new elementary school, as well as moving to a K-5 elementary model. By my next presentation to the school committee, I expect to have a FY21 budget schedule draft for you to review. That's all.
Questions from the committee. Ms. Hennessy.
Thank you very much. Quick question. Are we allowed or able to send applications to family members that previously were involved in the program, so that at minimum we're giving them something and giving them the opportunity to have those applications rather than them having to come ask for it?
We can reach out. We've been very proactive. I appreciate all of the principals being involved in this process. It's coming down to a point where there's side conversations happening. We're talking to folks in private about taking an application home. So they're definitely yes. So we can do that, as well as at the school itself, be proactive as well.
Yeah, it just seems like if we can, we're going to have that information anyway, and if we can be proactive on jumping on it, maybe it will help get a few more. So
because they make the data drop on October 1st, there's always a small bump time that we basically have that every single year.
Yeah.
But we try to make sure that those families know that you have to because not everyone has to reapply, and that's the confusing thing. Because if folks are eligible through the gateway, which is the state way that you can get to free and reduced lunch, there is no application, and people go on and off gateway.
Quickly.
So we do a lot of outreach for that.
Great.
But it's,
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that that we do give everybody those applications at the beginning of the school year. I can speak from experience. 3 out of my 4 children came home with those applications at the beginning of the year. So they are asked to fill them out, but unfortunately not all of them do.
and for anyone who is a gateway match at the beginning of the year, we send a letter home to them, letting them know you don't have to fill out that paperwork for this year. I think the confusing thing is that if you read that and you say don't have to fill the paperwork, then you think it's forever.
So do you get a list of everyone that is gateway?
Every 2 weeks.
Okay.
It updates.
So I actually got approached by a parent this morning asking me if Marlborough's ever looked into being a completely free community. She said, you know, she and her husband, because of their income, they're over income for well, reduced, I guess, for free. But she said, it's a hardship. It really adds up. And I basically told her that we do talk about it a lot, and that I, imagine, particularly after the school is built and settled and that first year of overly large budget will be behind us, that it probably will happen at some point.
And it really comes down to the percentage of students who are certified through the gateway. If you multiply that by 60%, that's the amount of meals they're going to reimburse at the federal level. So when we first looked at it, I think it was 2 years ago when I did my presentation for you, we were at 36%. We're currently at 44%. So as that grows, we continue to look at that calculation, but until it gets closer to 60%, it's very difficult to run a program when some of your meals are not being paid for. Right. So we're in that realm where we have a majority of students who need the service, but we're not yet at the point where we have enough gateway matches to be able to get to the everybody is free option.
Right, right. And I suggested to her that she should fill it out anyways, because what she thinks is over income may or may not be the same standard for the really reduced. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Public participation. Any public participation? Public participation. Seeing none. MHS Club Advisor Stipends.
Thank you. I asked Mr. Rowley to be here, but every year we should be bringing the stipends forward to school committee that have been running unpaid and have shown themselves to have continued support, so that way we may post them as a stipend. They're not yet in the contract, so that means they're not retirement eligible, but this is so we can post them and pay them as a stipend. Mr. Rowley, I'm not sure if you want to just go through each one. It might be,
Sure.
you know it better than I do. So
Thank you again. So we'll begin with the National Business Honor Society Advisor. This is continuing the development with our chapter, which is now in year 2, and it includes the organization of not just the induction ceremony, but also the adherence to all the NBHS standards on behalf of our students that participate. The Relay for Life, as I'm sure many of you are aware because it's a very publicized event each year, that club is now in its 12th year, and it has approximately 20 student members. They meet once a week, and they organize community visits one Wednesday per month to various stakeholders throughout the community. And also they hope to organize the Relay for Life event at the end of the school year for the Marlborough community. 2 positions for our NEASC accreditation coordinators. And so this is required under NEASC guidelines that we have these positions. These teachers organize committee development, evidence collection, and the writing process to demonstrate compliance and adherence to our NEASC recertification requirements. We are entering year 2 of a 10-year recertification cycle. I attached a sample of the work that these positions are responsible for, just so you could get an idea of the depth and the amount of work that goes into representing Marlborough High School in good fashion. There's a lot of hours that go into this. And so, again, if it's strictly done on a voluntary basis, then I think we end up with a different product, which is important for us to represent all the different things happening at MHS, which takes a real commitment in order to find evidence of those things. Assistant Marching Band Director. This is our biggest after-school activity, and over the years we have anywhere from 50 to 100 students that participate in the marching band activities, and that also involves organization around community parades, the football games on Friday afternoons. And so with that number of students participating in this event, we do try to get as much attention to those students, but having only one advisor, you can imagine it's really hard to hit all the needs that exist with that club. And then also 2 positions for our student support team, our SSS coordinators. This has been something that's been needed at MHS for many years. For quite a while now, we've tried to organize SST as sort of a top-down led approach to meeting the needs of students. And so administration tries to tie in some sort of a flow chart that would have the identification of a student in need and some of the interventions that would take place for that student. We have greatly lacked teacher leadership around this issue in developing out our full system. And so we've had 2 teachers that have participated as sort of the coordinators on the ground level of this process. Last year, they started to review the process of our SST, and they are beginning to revamp that entire process for our school so that it is, in fact, teacher-led, which it should be. Questions from the committee?
Ms. Matthews.
Mr. Riley, you referenced that you're utilizing the Category 5 unoccupied money.
Yes.
Are you asking also for these to be considered for Category 5 when reviewed, or have you considered where you want them placed when reviewed back in negotiations again?
This is kind of new territory for me because it's a contract discussion. So out of respect for how that process works, I'm not really sure if I should be formally requesting that these be recognized moving forward outside of those contract negotiations. So when I reviewed the contract, I noticed that we do have quite a few stipends in there. And going into my second year, I noticed that quite a few of those stipends go unfilled.
Mm-hmm.
So I certainly feel that with contract discussions, it might be worth looking at what are the needs of students, what are the needs of the staff in terms of what gets built into that contract. But in terms of formally requesting it, I'm not too sure how that process works. It's a little bit new to me.
Dan, when you looked at the contract, did you look at the amount of money? And this is the amount of, you were looking to pay the same amount of money for these ones that are currently in Category 5?
Yeah, there's actually,
That's what I was,
there'd be a little bit of,
Yes, well, yeah.
there'd be a little bit of surplus, I guess you could say, with what's remaining in that dedicated salary line, because I took Category 5 as the lowest paid stipend amount, and so I included all of these in Category 5, even though we may have had like some Category 4 or even higher stipends that weren't running.
So for this year, you're proposing to pay it under Category 5. Going forward, we will have to look at it in negotiations as far as where they fall.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's a big thing that I think people have to understand, is that when we post these outside of the contract, if teachers do them, it doesn't count towards their retirement because it's not in the contract.
Correct.
So just so people understand that.
Yep.
Does that mean that people that are not in the MEA can apply for them if they're not in the contract?
Yes.
I mean, I think.
Yes, it means they can, and it also means that even if it's in the contract, somebody outside of the MEA can actually apply for it as well. Preference is supposed to be given to an MEA member.
But I think with these ones, what's happening is we don't have all of our clubs running. So when we don't have the clubs run, there's some funds there. So we're looking to fill some of the clubs that have been running for free over time and then fund them that way.
So my memory, it's been a while since I've been on negotiations, but my memory was that if a new club started, that it had to be operating for 3 years before it was sanctioned with these, I mean, any ASC accreditation coordinator is not a club. I mean, some of these are outside of what ordinarily would be considered a club. The fact that Relay for Life has an advisor that's been going on for 12 years, why has that not been paid? I mean,
you didn't need to ask the MEA that question.
You know, I mean, so.
Well, right. I mean, a combination of things, right?
That's
exactly.
If the president or the negotiations team does not know about an advisorship, then we
correct. Goes both ways.
in the contract at the time of negotiation. Understand. There were things that we put in
last go around. Yeah.
Some of those are not club advisorships. So agree. As the president, I do have questions outside of this for a couple of those positions that are being requested.
Well, and to echo Mrs. Patel's question or concern, NEASC and SSTs don't necessarily fall under that.
Well,
they do fall under a stipend, but not a club, or athletics part.
Yes, my big
a category.
Again, outside of this room, that final stipend that was read off is not one that would fall under activities.
Correct. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think prior those types of positions have been done with a side letter agreement
by administrators.
Right.
Or they're not part of, or it might just be work outside the school day that
correct
is paid for as a stipend. We have a lot of those that are not part of the contract, that they're paid for outside the school day for work above and beyond.
Are they usually paid for in a lump sum stipend or an hourly rate?
Usually lump sum stipend.
Yeah. Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Depending on what the work is.
Yeah.
So I guess that was another question that, I was interested in understanding from Mr. Riley. What are the club or activity positions that are either no longer running, no longer filled?
Before you answer that, Mr. Riley, I will say this. the list, we maintain the list for things that haven't run necessarily without deleting them, just in case there is the need or want for students to bring it back. So there may be at any time 1, 10, whatever it is, but the list generally has more on there than are running. So
but if
he
it's
may
not,
know
if
the
it's
exact.
not running, there isn't
It's not being
an
paid.
advisor being
Right,
paid
not
for
being
it.
paid, exactly.
Where the surplus comes from.
Right.
Right,
In that year.
Right, and that's what I was looking for clarity about, what wasn't necessarily running, where we were looking at moving money for running.
Every year, there's always a handful that don't run.
Right.
And sometimes they subside someone.
And then comes back.
Brings back.
Yeah.
So I guess the underlying question is there enough money in that line item to fund these 5 positions?
More than that.
Okay.
4.
Was that kind of your
Yeah.
question?
7 positions.
That was the
And
next.
that's kind of the spirit of transparency bringing forward, is that it would be a shift of what those are directly spelled out for, but there's more than enough money in that salary line to cover these. Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, and we're gonna vote on those.
Yeah, this is an action item, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, do we need to take them individually, or do
Nope.
we?
Yeah,
Yep, okay, if you're gonna,
sorry, for clarity, though, it sounds like we have a little bit of a contract discussion here as well.
Oh,
I'm
no,
trying to understand.
we obviously would impact bargaining with the union if the money is in the lines. If we're gonna post them, I absolutely will sit down with Rupel and have that discussion, if there's any questions about any of these items.
So I guess that's why I'm asking the question, because at this point, it seems like isn't that a discussion that you all need to have rather than us as a full committee voting on these positions? It seems to, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me as if it needs to go into that conversation with negotiations and you, as opposed to full committee voting on positions when,
Friendly amendment, pending
I don't know.
bargaining?
Actually, I was gonna say refer it to negotiations.
well, that's why I'm asking the question. I would refer it, as opposed to us voting to move anything forward.
okay, what do we wanna do?
I'd like to make a motion to move it to negotiations for discussion.
Motion made and seconded to refer to negotiations. Any further discussion?
Yes, so the other option is to vote that we would sanction the payment pending negotiations. Because if it goes to negotiations first, then they have to come back for us to vote on it again. So that, to me, is just the other
There are
option.
funds available within the line.
Voting on positions.
No, the
correct?
positions are already there, they're just not being paid right now.
We're voting on providing stipends for the position.
Correct.
For this year. It's essentially a budget transfer. Yes?
Motion? On a motion
Does
to
it,
approve.
does it meet your need if it goes to negotiations first
I think that's fine.
and then comes back? Okay.
Yep, I think that's fine. I just want to be clear, we want to absolutely do the right thing. And if we have to discuss any of these, I want to discuss them first before they're, put out there and we put people in positions and give them money.
So, there's a motion and a second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Mr. Diaz.
Oh. The motion was to move it to negotiation.
Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Wait, before Mr. Riley leaves, can I address his prior thing? It was actually the last thing, the self-reflection report.
Oh, sure. Yeah, please.
I did take the time to read the
Me
entire
too.
document, and what a wonderful document it was.
Thank you.
Pointing out, I actually think you underrated our high school a little bit, but that's self-reflection, and we tend to do that. But it really showed so many of the strengths and the amazing things that the high school is doing. And I applaud everybody who worked on it. And look forward to seeing feedback from that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
May I also speak on this? The many years ago, being on the committee and participating in the writing of a document like this, the format is a little different. I actually really like this. It's very readable. But I'm curious, because we don't have the scale, so developing as opposed to, what was the other? Implementing.
Yeah.
So I presume, can you maybe explain where they fall on the continuum?
Yeah, any specific indicators or just overall what each one means?
Yeah, which each one, like where we are in the process.
Yeah, implementing refers to something that's fully actionable. You can see it live, and whereas developing, there's evidence that it's starting, but might not be fully underway yet.
Got it.
And I think with these, because this is the first step in the 10-year process, which is our self-reflection and how we look at ourselves in terms of our need for growth. And I think that in a very healthy spirit, the committees were a bit tough on themselves, which I think is great, because when those that are on the front line see that there's an opportunity for growth, then you know that growth is going to happen. So it was a very healthy process. I do think they were a bit tough on themselves, but then again, I think it's great that they're looking forward to some of the growth ahead that comes with this process.
I remember the last time around when it came to the final, reports and stuff, that NESDA came back and was saying, or whatever it is, NEASC, told us we were too tough on ourselves. Yeah. Like they saw things in a slightly different, more favorable light in some of the areas than our report had shown. So but it's good.
Thank you.
It's all great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few transfers for the committee to consider tonight. At Jarrick, I'm requesting a transfer of $20,700, which includes transferring one behavior tech position from Whitcomb to Jarrick due to a change in student needs, as well as offsetting overages in math, the clerk and principal lines. At Kane, just requesting $400, utilizing savings in the reading teacher line to offset an increase in the principal line. At Richer, a request of $3,500 to be transferred, which is correcting a $2,700 transfer from the ELA instructional materials line back into math instructional material, as well as utilizing efficiencies in the assistant principal account to offset an increase in the principal account. At Whitcomb, I'm requesting $27,300 to be moved, utilizing savings in grade 5 as well as para lines to offset overages in music. There was a need to hire a new staff member who came in at a higher cost, higher step and lane, as well as the 12-month clerk line. Also transferring $8,000 to the special ed teacher line due to a long-term substitute being needed at that site. District-wide, I'm requesting $112,397 to be transferred. This includes $25,000 to correct the budget account for one custodian, as well as utilizing efficiencies in copier and printer supplies, as well as summer salaries to offset overages and custodial costs, staffing costs, summer overages in paraprofessional and transportation, and maintenance. Lastly, in special education, requesting $44,560, utilizing circuit breaker funds to offset overages in salaries, testing, nursing, and tutoring needs.
Motion to approve transfers as presented.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing
Sorry,
Tennessee.
got one. The tutoring, the 26.5, large amount. Obviously we need to support our tutoring services for all of our students. Is this like a one-off? Is this something that we can expect that this has probability of reoccurrence?
We've had this issue for a couple of years now where the tutoring costs have always been above our budgeted amount. We only budget, I think, about $45,000 in total, Doug. And I think we've seen significant amounts above that. We've utilized other places. We might want to adjust that moving forward.
Yeah, sorry, I just...
Yeah. It's one of those, we've constantly overspent this the past 5 years.
Yeah. Sorry, it was something that I have been kind of seeing it pop up again and again, so just curious. And I I had another question. Oh, with back on Richard for the move from ELA to math. I'm assuming, again, are we talking about some of the changes that we've been having with the math curriculum, and this is trying to support there?
So this was actually a typing mistake by myself, where last meeting you approved the transfer to the math line. There was a typo that transferred it into the ELA line. I'm just correcting that back now.
I was like, we're getting a lot to math. Okay, all right, thank you.
Apologies about that
No
mistake.
problem, thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, carries. Acceptance of donations and gifts. YMCA of Central Mass Services for Families with Young Children, $30,030.
Motion to accept.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, carries. Reports of committees. Any reports of committees? Seeing none. Members forum. Ms. Bowden-Hettinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I would like to check in with Dottie. And I have one question. In that the day when people went off to schools and jobs, did you get to participate and do something?
I was taking the SATs that day.
Guess not then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that the opportunity is still really good for the students who, like Stacy said, do have jobs and don't have the opportunity to always go, especially Kinsig, where I know more than one student who applied that day to the school. So it was really helpful.
That's great. And we talked earlier today, and I think there was something you wanted to add tonight. Was there?
Yeah. So every year, the high school does the reality fair, and for those of you who haven't seen it, because I know some of you have kids who've done it, but I brought my folder just so you guys can see what it's like, and you can feel free to pass it down. So the reality fair is organized by Miss Haley and her Rotary Club.
Thank you. And it's run by students from BPA and volunteers from local businesses. Through the process, students choose a career during the Panther period of 2 weeks before, and the day of the fair, they're given a realistic paycheck and are set off into the real world. There, they have to find home, transportation, and all other necessities for real life. And there's also a wheel of fortune or misfortune, depending on the outcome. And those can range anywhere from a speeding ticket to an unplanned pregnancy to a tax return and winning the lottery. And I personally think that this event is really great because it provides students with like a financially realistic look into what the future would be. And being somebody who's been in BPA since my freshman year, I've gotten to help, and this year it was really cool to be able to be a part of it. And I know obviously some students take it more seriously than others, but I think it's a really great opportunity that the school has, and I think it's also a really good way for local businesses to interact with the high school. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. It was great. I mean, I try to go every year, and one of the things I think is particularly nice is that seeing the interaction of students and the business people, because it's clear that the business folks that were there were really interested in helping the kids to figure this kind of stuff out. And I think, we want our students to feel comfortable when they graduate, if they're going to stay in the city and work, to know that, hey, I met that person from the bank, and if I need to open an account, I'm going to feel comfortable going to the bank and seeing that person again, that sort of thing. So I thought.
Yeah, and it was also nice because when we went to the tables, we weren't just like exchanging like essentially what was Monopoly money. Like we were getting advice.
Really big Monopoly money.
Like the people at the tables were giving us advice and saying like, oh, make sure you try and remember this, or make sure to take this into account when you're going to this table too. So it wasn't just like we were going through the motions. It was we were getting a really good insight into people who have actual knowledge on it. So I think it was a really great thing because we got all of this experience that we can take moving forward.
Yeah. That's great. Oh, and the one thing that I really liked is one of the tables was volunteer, like people, the students could sign up to like volunteer or give back to the community. And there were a couple of students that made a pledge they were going to give $5 a month to a certain organization or whatever. They were able to factor that into their stuff. And there was also a pet store. So you could get a dog. You got a dog. And you have to remember that getting the dog is only one thing, but you got to buy food every month and go to the vet and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. Awesome.
I think the interesting thing this morning was, in talking to some of the business people that were there, that several of them told me the kids seem more conservative this year in what they were asking for. Because I've been there some years where it's the most expensive apartment and the most expensive car, and they're on the street in 2 weeks. So, but this year it seemed like more kids were more conservative and some of the, more realistic in some of the things they were doing.
Well, maybe our new course in financial literacy is helping to bring a little bit more reality to reality fair.
I was helping Miss Haley with, we had surveys that all of the students and the volunteers had to fill out, and a bunch of the comments were, oh, I learned this in financial lit. And I'm actually taking it, I'm not taking it this semester, but I'm taking it next semester. And I know that in previous years, the teacher's just been Mr. Kiley, and in this year, it's Mr. Kiley, Miss Haley, and Miss Mattingly, meaning that the number of kids who have wanted to take it has increased. And I know in the past, a lot of students have been hesitant to take it because it's run as a CP class, but I think this year people really thought about the fact that, do I want that little bit of a higher up on my GPA, or do I want the actual knowledge that comes from the class? So.
Good. Senator.
Another thing that was really cool was members from MEDC, whatever, you know what, Economic Development Committee.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were, he was there, and they were kind of, making rounds. And Ms. Belial was already trying to work on talking with him about internship opportunities, which I think is great. It just speaks to, again, a lot of coordination and effort, I will say, on behalf of you, Mr. Mayor, on what you've done to try and help and develop those relationships, because it gives those opportunities so that you can really understand, what do you like with the opportunity of going to Quest, whether they want to be in the science fields or whatever. And I think it's great, because I never had that when I went to high school. Didn't have those kind of chances. So
Meredith and I were both at visiting the Whole Foods headquarters today down in the office park, and started talking about what they can do for the community. They've been here a while and haven't really got involved, and we said, either offering internships to the kids or having speakers go down and go into school and speak. So they were very open to that, and we're going to line that up through you guys. So, yeah.
I actually work at Whole Foods.
You do? The corporate headquarters?
Unfortunately, no. I had my training there, though. But I was talking to my boss, or we have a suggestion box in our break room. I don't know how often it gets checked, but I put something in there about, I know that some local businesses come to our school and offer jobs, and being one of the only 2 kids from Marlborough that's there, I really like working there. And I've actually gotten a lot of training on things like GMOs and organics just from being a team member there, and I only work part-time, I don't work full-time. And I was talking to my boss about having opportunities, and I was going to try and coordinate it through someone with our school and my boss about having them being able to come to the school and do interviews on the spot, just because I know that some people don't have the opportunity to be able to drive over there after school. And I know that my boss, the one from Sudbury, is definitely already interested in that.
Good. Do you like the place? Do you like working there, or do you like the fact that every time you go to any table in the whole place, there's food on it? There's food everywhere.
It's definitely a little bit of both.
Every little conference room has little bags of food, and there's food everywhere down
there. And it's nice because we actually get to sample whatever we want through our department. So I've gotten to try some cool stuff.
Yeah. And I wanted to bring up one other thing. Thank you very much, and we're going to follow up on that and see if we can tie the two together. But I happened to go down to the PTO down in Richard the other night. They have a lot of parents that show up. And I found out how they do that is they have pizza. So I'm going to go to their PTO meetings more often. But it came up about the new school and everything else, and I answered most of the questions. But the buses came up, and I know you and I have talked about it, Mr. Bergeron, but I figured maybe talking about it publicly a little bit, they wanted to know, are there gonna be more buses next year, because the kids are on the bus for an hour. It's like, yeah, there's gonna be more buses, just in the fact that we're gonna have 4 schools, there's gonna have to be more buses. And the other question was, the buses that are full with 3 to a seat, how come we don't have bus monitors? And maybe you can.
We usually don't provide bus monitors on any of our buses unless one of our principals will request it. So occasionally, one of the principals does reach out to me and let me know that they want to put a monitor on for a short amount of time, usually about a 2-week period, and it's generally over some behavioral issues that need to calm down on the bus on the way home. And from time to time, I will approve those. And generally, it's one of our employees who will do it. Sometimes it's a teacher or paraeducator who will jump on and ride either from or to, and then come back to the school afterwards. So from time to time we do it, but for the 28 buses we run, we don't provide monitors on those buses. It's not something that's very common. We do provide monitors on all of our special education buses. All 8 of those do have a monitor. But on a regular education run, for the most part, we don't have a monitor unless requested by the principal, and usually it's for a short period of time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Whoa.
So on Monday, November 25th, from 9:30 to 11 at Assabet is going to be a talk that is a combination of MASS, MASC, and DESE about the new superintendent evaluation. It's called a drive-in. I'm not quite sure what that means, but that's what it's billed as.
They've been calling drive-ins now. Anytime they host something in Marlborough, apparently it's a drive-in. I don't know where that's coming from.
I don't know what that means, but I presume we're still supposed to park our car in the parking lot and walk.
Yes.
But unless they're doing it out in the parking lot, I'm not so sure what the drive-in is. But, so I am gonna go. I don't know if anybody is able to join me, or it
sounds like I should go too.
It's for superintendents and school committee members. So November 25th, 9:30 to 11.
Mrs. Hennessy.
So Ms. Shanahan at the beginning of the meeting did mention something, but I'll put it out there. There's a playoff game tomorrow for the field hockey team. And I'm sure they would love any additional support. I believe it begins at 4 o'clock, and they play Tantascwa. And I think that they are the only fall team that's actually moving ahead in playoffs. We all had a kind of rough athletic season, but, you know, with some injuries and stuff, but a lot of positive stuff. So if you can, be there at 4 o'clock at Whitcomb Turf to support the field hockey team.
Mr. Mayor? May I just thank Kevin Breen, the fire chief, because when I was at the reality fair today, he was running the wheel of misfortune.
He was
So
very
I just want to
funny.
thank Chief Breen for participating.
He didn't give any bad news to anyone, did he? He brings it to me all the time.
He asked me to spin, and I declined.
Did you have something else? No? No? I thought I saw another hand. Anyone else?
Tuesday's Election Day. Remind everybody to please
Get
vote.
out and
Get out
vote. Vote, vote, vote. All politics is local.
And we will be attending, almost all of us will be attending the MASC conference starting next Wednesday.
Correct. We will. Move to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you very much.